800 passes completed. But that just doesn't really tell us anything. You look at the table, Barca 3 point, well, still level on points with Real Madrid. Real Madrid in action tomorrow. Madrid with a chance to go 3 points clear. But just going to those stats, Ali. First half, I think Barca had 80% of the ball and they had no shots.
Correct.
It was just sideways. It was incredible.
Sideways and back. So last week, after Quique Setién takes over and they play against Granada, the conversation following the match was, well, we're back to the identity of Barcelona, the possession of the ball. We completed 1,000 passes. Okay, I suppose that has some value. And I suppose that that is the identity of Barcelona. But it has to be possession with a purpose. Yeah. Not this possession, not this inefficient, ineffective, predictable possession that is sideways and back, sideways and back, sideways and back. If you look at the first half today, and you just mentioned it, how many of those passes were actually penetrating passes, forward passes, passes that eliminate lines of defending, passes that are creative, that get and put the opposition into a position where now they have to defend, that is uncomfortable for them to defend? It wasn't. Valencia was just moving sideways, sideways, sideways. They're keeping everything in front of them, and Barcelona kept going backwards. So for all the possession, for all the long passing sequences, 15 passes, 30 passes, 20 passes, whatever it may be, Valencia, with 2 passes, they go on the attacking half, they get a shot on goal, they hit the post, they draw a penalty kick, they get a goal. All the things that you expect for Barcelona to be doing, Valencia was a far more dangerous team without having the ball and no need to have the ball. They were like, okay, yeah, sure, you can have and pass the ball. So how is this any better than whatever they were doing under Valverde? It's not.
What a reality check this is.
Yeah.
For Barcelona fans that thought this was all Valverde. Get rid of him, get in Setién, bring back the values, because it's quite simple, isn't it, sometimes to analyse this side. If Messi doesn't score or have a good game, Barca don't win.
Yeah, it's very much that. And so then you start looking at the personnel out on the field. And you have to ask the question again, which we ask on a weekly basis about Antoine Griezmann.
120 million for that.
Well,
let's be fair to Antoine Griezmann.
Well, you haven't even let me finish about Antoine Griezmann.
Maybe he's going to say nice things.
Maybe there's something nice to be said. What I would say is, in the midweek, Copa del Rey, he scores 2 goals, and they all come from central positions in which he makes quick diagonal movement to get in behind. Today, in a game in which they could have used some of that, he puts himself into wider areas. He goes underneath. He goes anywhere but inside the 18-yard box, where it is where he should be, because, oh, by the way, that's a position that he's playing now, given the absence of Luis Suarez.
I thought you were going to say something nice.
Well, I started nice, and then I went real.
Well, somebody like Griezmann, at the end of the day, when you're playing centre forward, you need some service. And there's nothing more annoying when I was a coach, there was nothing more annoyed me more than watching one of my players take a sideways or a backwards pass without even looking to see if there was a forward pass. That was the most annoying thing that used to drive me up the wall. And if I'm a centre forward and I've got midfield players who are not even looking forward, what does that do to Griezmann? You wonder why he ends up disappearing in all different places where he shouldn't be to try and get a hold of the ball. I mean, it goes 2 ways. And as far as this guy Setién, what happened to this attacking play? Because it looked like they were told, just keep the ball. Just don't give it away. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Just keep it. That's what it looked like. So what happened to the influence of this guy? There doesn't seem to be any at all.
Gab Marcotti is with us. Gab, we been too harsh on Barcelona?
I mean, certainly not based on today's performance. And look, to add a little bit more context, this is a Valencia team that started the game without 2 of their 3 best players because Dani Parejo was unavailable. Rodrigo Moreno, who, funnily enough, he started on the bench, reason being that supposedly he was a subject of interest from Barcelona before the match. So that gives you some sense of what they were up against. I agree. We all saw really, really sterile possession. I'd say 2 quick things about that. One is the old Barcelona values, the Pep Guardiola era, that wasn't just about possession. It was also about pressing off the ball. And this is a team that has a really difficult time doing it, in part because Lionel Messi, isn't as young as he was 10 years ago. None of us are. And they simply didn't get that part of the game right either, which I think only made things worse. in terms of possession and penetration, I think that's something that takes chemistry, and this is Setien's third game in charge. You know, we can give him a tiny bit of leeway for that, but he has to get that right. Otherwise, it's just not going to work, and you're just going to sit around, pass the ball.
Yesterday, 4 points then separating the top four. But it was a day, Gab, that Bayern Munich will be very happy, not only with their performance, but of course with Leipzig losing as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't have worked out better. Obviously, they kicked off after Leipzig. But look, Schalke, they were up to fourth in the table. They were coming off a great result last week. There was even some fretting about this, but early on, they were in control. They put the game to bed in the second half. But yeah, firing on all cylinders. They're right up there. And look, as for Leipzig, you're going to get games like this. Their incredible scoring streak of 3 goals a game has ended. But equally, they created the bulk of the chances, and it took that absolute worldie that we saw from Traore for them to go a goal down.
Extra time dominated by talk of a throwing coach over the last few days. Be sure to check out if that continues today over on our YouTube channel. FA Cup continues tomorrow. Manchester City against Fulham. Early start, 8 a.m. Eastern here on Plus, followed by Tranmere against Manchester United. And then it's Shrewsbury Town against Liverpool. On Monday, let's not forget, it's Bournemouth against Arsenal. Meanwhile, in the Championship today, of course, a few teams were in action in the FA Cup. Swansea then looking to close the gap on Preston in the playoff places, unable to do so, losing against Stoke City by 1-0. Meanwhile, Serie A, great matches tomorrow. Inter Milan against Cagliari, that's at 6:30. That's followed by Roma against Lazio, and then in Naples, Napoli take on Juventus. Let's look ahead to those games, shall we, Gab? Starting off with the late one, Napoli-Juve, maybe not quite as significant as it has been over previous seasons.
Yeah, except don't go tell that to Rino Gattuso, given Napoli's home form of late. Napoli in serious trouble. Juventus coming off what I thought was a really impressive performance in midweek. They're clearly heavy favorites here, and they'll have the edge, of course, of taking the pitch after Inter, who play earlier in the day, and of course after the Rome derby. And if things break Juve's way, they could be as much as 7 points clear by the end of the evening.
Meanwhile, Gab, Roma-Lazio, of course, always fireworks in this derby, but more significant going into this tie, considering the Champions League ramifications.
Yeah, well, and the title ramifications,
true, yeah.
Because remember, Lazio have a game in hand here. They're on this incredible run of consecutive victories, and they're taking on a Roma side that have played better, but they've been hit hard by injuries, of course, above all Zaniolo. They've gotten praise, but there's also some tumult behind the scenes. Possible new ownership coming in. I think they're at the due diligence phase right now. That's what they call it. So Roma would like nothing better than to trip their rivals up, especially if they're on their way to making this a serious 3-horse race for the Scudetto.
And of course, we kick off the day in some style in Milan. Inter taking on Cagliari, Gab.
Inter, yes, they're all waiting for Christian Eriksen. They welcomed Victor Moses and Ashley Young, and I know people are gonna mock, but these are players that Conte knows. These are players that Conte feels that he needs. And look, they can read the table as well as anybody. They're going to hope that these guys bring the extra energy in there. Eriksen, obviously, he's not going to play. I don't think the deal is officially done yet, but he certainly didn't play for Spurs on Saturday. So he appears to be, as best we know, on his way. And they just want to get this game out of the way, get the 3 points in, and then figure out how to work Eriksen into their lineup.
Nice day of Italian action then across the board. It finishes 0-0.
92nd minute.
You had any misses like that, Stevie?
No, thank goodness.
Not that close?
No. I've had a couple where I've scuffed it.
Right.
And nobody's really noticed because it goes in, but
That's all right. You still go and celebrate.
Yeah, hey! admit that.
Hey.
Chalk it off. That was a scuffle.
Hey.
No doubt somebody will bring up a chance I had in the World Cup.
Hey, babe. We'll see you
That one
tonight.
famous one in '86.
Against Uruguay, yeah.
Was that a scuffer? What was wrong with
It was a
that?
scuffer.
Oh dear, you were the reason, Stevie.
Well, so they keep reminding me.
That's
I just
it.
reminded them, and all.
Oh dear, you wanted to show that. Till tomorrow, goodbye. Welcome into Extra Time. Thank you very much for your tweets. Can I ask you a question first, Stevie?
Uh-huh.
Oh, let me guess. Come on.
No, it is what you think it is. There's no throw-ins mentioned.
Okay.
25 years since Cantona kicked, obviously, the member of the
Crystal
crowd.
Palace, yeah.
At that time, you were obviously playing. Was it something the players applauded, appreciated, embarrassed by? Like, what was your opinion of it?
Every single one of us would have loved to have done that at some stage to somebody.
Right.
Because every single one of us at some stage got absolute dog's abuse from somebody in the crowd continuously. I actually played with a guy who went to somebody's house. I played with a guy called Jim McSherry, Ayr United.
Right.
And we were part-time, so everybody had a job. Anyway, so whenever they played on the right-hand side, there was a guy who used to stand every single home game and just give him it the whole time. And Jimmy got fed up with it. And the guy was a season ticket holder.
Right.
He found out where he worked, and he went to his work and got into his work and went into his office and said, right, see you. You start shouting at me again. The guy's going, oh, Jim, I didn't mean it. And he said, no. He goes, hey, I'm coming to your work because you come to my work on a Saturday and give me it. I said, so you better pack it in. He said, I'll be here every day.
Wow.
I'll give you the same. The guy was like, oh, it was only a bit of fun, Jim.
I bet.
Just one question. What was your part-time job?
I was a brickies labourer. That was one of my... I had a few jobs.
Is that when you drove the forklift truck into a lake?
No, into the funds.
Into
So
the,
when you,
into
so when
the
you,
what?
the fund, they're called the funds.
The
So
who?
when you're building a house,
Yes.
it's basically the 3 or 4 foot
Yeah.
that's below
Like the
ground-
foundation.
the foundation, yeah. They call the funds. Yeah, they call the funds. What building sites did you work on, Gav? Hey. And I was told to take a truckload of bricks because I couldn't drive at the time.
Right.
So the gaffer of the job was in strike, and so we couldn't do any work. So one of the boys taught me how to drive the truck. So it was like
Very
a wee,
well,
so it
apparently.
was a wee dumper truck, right? So by the afternoon, he said, right, I showed you how to do it this morning. Go and fill the dumper up with brick. I want you to take it round the outside of the funds and dump those bricks in.
Okay.
And I went, no bother. So away I went, filled the big front end up with bricks, got in it, reversed it, turned round the corner. And as I got towards the end, I kind of forgot where the brake was. And then I just panicked and I went like,
You did?
why? Yeah. Hey, ejector. I got the ejector seat. Faulted it.
Wow.
The dumper just went like that. Woof, straight down.
Did you get sacked?
No, well, the gaffer who hated me
Right.
wasn't there. So they called the office and got them to bring out one of the big trucks to pull it up. I was like that, in slow motion, jumping off it before it went done.
Do you think Barcelona is still on a race for the Champions League title, Ali?
In the race. I'm not sure that they're going to win that race. And, you know, of the game today, one of the things that was also disappointing was when you watch Barcelona against Liverpool in Champions League last year, and you think about the play in which Alexander-Arnold off the corner kick decides to take it quickly and Barcelona's just kind of walking away, unaware of what's happening, right? It's lack of attention to details. And that was under Valverde. Now under Setien, the second goal by Valencia came straight off a throw-in. You would have liked it. Throw-in play.
They got a throwing coach.
Off a throw-in, people walking away from the ball, unaware that something's happening. Piqué late after Umtiti gets turned. Sergio Roberto then late tracking back, and then Maxi Gomez wide open the far post. Straight off a throw-in. Still lack of attention to details. So Valverde, Setien, it doesn't matter. As long as the players, at this point, you have to figure out, okay, listen, we may have been Barcelona for a great period of time, but right now it's back to getting the basics right. It's back to getting work done and grinding. And this team doesn't look like a team that wants to grind.
Is it really necessary to be an ex-pro to become a good coach?
I don't think so. I don't think it's the main criteria. I certainly think it helps that you listen. Your experience of all things is great, whatever you do, and to have the experience of being on the field, for example, can only be good experience if you're on the other side, trying to explain to somebody what to do because you've been in that position. I don't think it's the be all and the end all.
Do you think I can make a good coach, do you?
There are exceptions. Probably you're one of them.
I think what's important, though, is that you can look at players and evaluate players just in the way they express themselves. That you walk across a locker room and you see a player's eyes and you know, this guy I can trust, that guy not so much. And you only get that when you've been in the locker room for a long period of time.
Right.
And you've been in those sort of positions. And you get the sense and feel for a team, and that only happens having been inside the locker room. So that nuance to communicating with players, I think it becomes a little easier when you have been a player.
Actually talk about when you're coaching to go somewhere out the way and learn your trade. And I kind of think of Villas-Boas at Chelsea because he learned his trade under Mourinho at Chelsea pretty much. And of course all the players could see that where this guy started,
right?
And I don't think that helped when he actually got the Chelsea job because they could still see him in their head as this young guy who was just trying to pick stuff up.
Gab Marcotti is with us. Kurzawa to Juve. Thoughts, Gab?
I think this is purely an accounting thing. Mattia De Sciglio is going the other way, as far as we understand, to Paris Saint-Germain and Paris Saint-Germain. So it's going to be Kurzawa plus cash for De Sciglio, and obviously De Sciglio's been there a long time, so his residual value on the books is low, and it's important for Juve to get deals like these done. Kurzawa he only had 6 months left on his contract. He's going to get presumably a shorter term deal. And be out of the way going forward. But I think right now he's just an extra body.
Which would you prefer, boys? Winning by a lot of goals or winning with a last-minute goal?
Winning by a lot of goals. Every time.
Yeah.
Why the stress? Why the need
No,
to
but surely
suffer?
the adrenaline, the excitement of scoring the winning goal in the 92nd minutes.
Hey. Give me a hat trick and winning 6-0. I'll take that every single day.
Oh, but from a fan, I think you prefer to win.
Well, from a fan, exactly. Enjoy that. Have fun with that.
Yeah, when it works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously if you're guaranteed the win.
Well, you're not, so that's why you'd rather be 6-0 up, right?
No, but games as a fan you watch are more memorable, aren't they? For that last-minute drama.
Yeah, but as a pro, no thank you.
No,
No.
not at all.
Why do you need that stress in your life?
Yeah.
Oh, just more adrenaline, excitement.
No, then you can't sleep that night. No. No.
If Stevie couldn't have shepherd's pie on the menu, what would he eat?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Spaghetti bolognese?
Yeah.
Perfect. There we go.